So, congratulations, Mohit.
Thank you.
For the sake of audience, first tell us about yourself.
So my name is Mohit Meena. I graduated from National Law University Delhi, and since then I've been preparing for UPSC. I took law as my optional, and I recently cleared the exam as well.
Okay. Mohit, since you are from NLU Delhi only, right? Lot of students from NLU Delhi do come, right? Like this year also there are 3-4 students from your side. So tell me that how did you prepare for law optional, specifically constitutional law? How did you go about it?
So constitutional law personally is my favorite subject because I find it most interesting. So it wasn't the most challenging for me, as even during my college days I studied consti a lot outside of my syllabus, out of interest. I used to study consti. So for the law optional syllabus, I mostly referred to my college notes and some standard books I referred to, not a lot of them, mostly to get a list of important case laws. And that's usually how I went about it. I looked at the PYQs to understand what all are the important topics. And within those topics, I studied the syllabus basically.
So basically you are saying that mostly आपने college notes पे rely किया और थोड़ा बहुत PYQ से you had an idea that okay what kind of question comes, right, and accordingly you did it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now what about international law? How did you study it, or the sources that you referred for international law?
So international law में there were a lot of issues because बहुत diverse है syllabus. So I had to collect resources from a lot of different areas. Uh, so I referred to Dukkis as well for international law. But Dukki may also there were only like 40 to 50% syllabus covered. So for example, international humanitarian law, that I use mostly refer to online sources, articles, and stuff like that. And other areas like United Nations, environment law, all of those small topics also I either refer to my college notes or I downloaded sources from the internet. Basically, I had to collect sources from a lot of different areas. Also, say your solved answer queues or PYQs also helped in that regard. Giving me an idea of important case laws. So all of these were the sources basically.
Combined. Okay, good. Uh, I think you are the one. I might be wrong. You are the one who emailed me regarding certain topics. Sir, I need notes of these topic. No.
No, sir.
Okay, someone else. Okay. Now, Mohit, tell me, what about the CLD portion in paper two, right? Because mostly people are very confused with regard to CLD, right? They see each topic and the topic is the entire subject itself, right? So how did you handle the CLD portion?
So CLD again, it's difficult to get the sources because there are many different topics in it. So going source by source, there are a lot of overlap as well. For example, PIL you'll study in constitutional law as well. It's covered in CDL. So topics like PIL, RTI, which you'll studied in administrative law as well. All of those topics I studied while I was preparing for my paper one, paper two. But some other topics like Competition Act, IPR, for them I had to either refer to some Dukkis or my college notes where they were relevant. And mostly for CLD, I either relied on PYQs, Dukkis, or my selective college notes and online resources wherever I wasn't able to find anything else.
So I think you are, being from a very young generation, right? You used, I think, internet very effectively, right? In that regard. That's very good.
Yes, sir. A lot of, especially people who have qualified the exam before, they make good compilations, so it's easier for us.
For us to take that. Good. And also, I think de facto people have given it very nicely at one place, every compilation, right? That also helps a lot. Okay. What about the contract law part? And specifically tell me with regard to the topics, which is again a subject in themselves, right? Like this Sales of Goods Act, or for that matter, negotiable instrument or insurance. So how did you tackle those?
So for contract, I did proper preparation. I referred to a standard book of R&D, and I basically looked at every single topic that is there in the syllabus. What also contract act is very big. So only selective sections we have to study for the exam. So those sections I studied properly from standard book. I did not refer to any Dukki or any other source for it. Just simply Ratanlal and Dhirajlal. That's the one book that I referred to for contracts.
And what about the tort, the most tedious? People say that this is the most tedious subject. How did you handle
Again, for taught as well, I refer to R&D only.
it?
Uh, I had these books during my college days, so I refer to those the same standard books.
And what about the IPC? I mean, did you write this time BNS that I suggested, in bracket, or you completely wrote BNS only?
So that was a little stressful situation for us because right when we were preparing in the middle of it, the BNS was passed, and I was hoping it gets delayed, but it was passed and it was even implemented. So I did not do anything. I did not change anything. I studied IPC. I referred to. I have a standard book for it as well, and I also used some Dukkis where I basically where I wanted some concise material. I referred to Dukkis. And for other areas within IPC, I believe, uh, so even within IPC, I cannot recall if Prevention of Corruption Act and all of those things are part of the IPC or CLD.
Yeah, it is
But
IPC.
yes, sir. So those things again, so some Dukkis covered it, some did not, and I either asked my seniors for some help in this regard who had cleared this exam to give me material for these niche topics. And for IPC, I referred to Dukkis and standard book only. It wasn't much difficult.
And
And
you did not write anything corresponding BNS provision, nothing, just IPC you wrote.
sir, wherever I could recall some section of
Okay.
corresponding section of BNS, I wrote it. IPC and bracket this
Bracket.
section in BNS.
That is why I suggested
But
this time, right? Every time I think
uh,
next 1 2 years, that is the guy. In fact, next means also IPC/BNS, right? The corresponding BNS provision is.
it's there's basically nothing changed in BNS. So
That is true. That is true. Okay, now what about the current affair? I mean, how much current affair did you put, or the sources that you relied for the current affair part?
sir, so important Supreme Court judgments. That's the only thing I referred to for current affairs. So there was this compilation that you sent to us on email.
Sure.
There were
Yes, yes.
I mostly only referred to that. I think that was helpful. I even mentioned a lot of cases from that in my answer. Other than that, standard newspaper reading and case laws that you come across, and I made notes out of that while during my GS preparation only. So if there were any case laws, while I was reading newspaper, I made a list of them as well and added to your list that you sent to us.
Okay, this was your which attempt this was, Mohit?
The second attempt.
This was the second. Very good. Okay, Mohit. Now, two more things. Tell me, normally people, who are starting with the law optional, right? I think you are in better position to tell this, right? So, is there any feedback with regard to how you can, integrate the UPSC preparation, law optional specifically preparation with your, college classes itself? Did you started earlier or you started after you graduated?
No, sir, I actually started preparing during the COVID times. But at that time, I was only focusing on GS and I had only prepared geography and polity. I did not even touch upon law at that time. Proper preparation, I started after graduation. And as for your question of how to integrate the law optional in your college, so I don't think you need to do anything separately for it as there is a lot of overlap. Just make sure if there are subjects like constitutional law, torts, and contracts, you do not neglect them because there are a lot of subjects in the college we study just for the sake of clearing the exam, like family law, for example. So just make sure you're studying them properly and just not for the sake of passing your semester.
Okay. Now, you never thought of judiciary? I mean, people normally law people, right? They have these two career choices: either go for civil services or judiciary. So, I mean, you were very clear in your mind that you want to go for civil services, or you dangled up with judiciary as well?
So initially, I was confused. I actually wanted to prepare for both, but then I realized I can't do that. It'd be too hectic for me. So I had to choose between the two, and I chose UPSC. So simply because judiciary, I realized, first of all, there are a lot of problems with respect to the exams that are happening. There is a lot of
Time
delay
frame. The
and there's
time frame is not very
a lot
proper.
of uncertainty as well. And they even changed the rules recently where you now need 3 years of mandatory practice
Some of the
for the
states.
judiciary exams. DJs, I think, also changed it. So that in itself makes me unqualified for the exam now. And more importantly, UPSC was more, I was more interested in civil services than judiciary.
Now, see, my personal observation, I have seen people from, tier one colleges. They are very well decided beforehand only, right? Whether you want to go for judiciary or laws, right? So they are not very, in that sense, very okay. Now, Mohit, one thing you cleared in the second attempt itself, right? Now, people who are preparing right now or who will prepare in future, right? Most of them do not qualify for prelims. So, did you have any sort of specific strategy for prelims or any special technique that you followed with regard to prelims examination? Some thoughts?
The prelims requires, in my opinion, a lot. It's in my opinion the most difficult part of the exam out of all the three.
Totally.
Even it's more difficult than mains and interview combined, in my opinion. And that is why your primary focus should be on clearing prelims, because only then you'll be able to give the mains exam. And prelims requires a lot of revision, sir. Like 5 to 6 times you have to revise the whole syllabus thoroughly. And you cannot be lazy with respect to prelims. You can be lazy with respect to mains. You might want to skip on some topics in your optional because you have choice between questions. But prelims may, in my opinion, you have to mandatorily complete the syllabus multiple times, go through it, revise. And if there are areas where you feel you're weak, for example, I was weak in history, ancient and medieval history. So those two were the areas that I focused a lot on. I devoted most of my time to history. And polity, being from law optional background, law background, was relatively very easier for me. So I focused less on those subjects. So for prelims, I would say focus on your weak areas and improve upon your score in that aspect. And focus more on static rather than people sometimes get too much attached to current affairs. And last year there were a handful of questions that were directly from current affairs. And I can't recall anymore.
I see. That is, this time I have seen there. In fact, a lot of people came to me for writing tests, right? So I told them that you go, and if you are little bit good, given little bit attention in your law optional exam, I mean law college exam, then I think after qualifying current affair also, I mean prelims also, you can come and prepare in that 4 5 months window. Okay, because prelims is really very very tricky. A lot of good students could not qualify prelims, right? And ultimately they leave the preparation itself, right? They are never even writing mains once, they leave the preparation because of the prelims. Very correct. Prelims is the main point.
This time
Okay.
they've made it more difficult now.
Yeah, very very
Because
difficult. It has
mains
become
ke
very
liye
very.
there is less time, only 2 months now.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So obviously, I will advise you, and you must be preparing also for the next mails. So I will not take much of your times. So start with the prelims, okay, Mohit. And after coming to, I mean, once you qualify the prelims, you start writing for the mains. Okay. Now, one last question, Mohit. Especially tell me, a person who is in fourth and fifth year of the college, right? How can he integrate the preparation of laws? Step by step sort of process. What can he do first and then second, then third?
Yes, a fourth year, sir. Uh, Fifth year, I would say you can start properly from fifth year, because that is when a lot of subjects that you study are very light subjects, and you also have very way less subjects in fifth year. So if you want to start, I personally recommend starting from fifth year. And you can start by revising your subjects that you studied in your first and second year, because by that time you sometimes forget things that you studied in contracts and torts in your very first semester. So start by revising those subjects, torts, contracts on IPC, which you studied in your second year, constitutional law. And because international law you study in fourth year, so those remain fresh. So start by revising all those previous subjects, and by the time you graduate, you should be able to go through your syllabus at least once.
Now, what about the interview experience? What were the major question asked in the interview, Mohit?
So interview, I really don't know. I'll have to check my score. What was my score in interview? But I really don't know how my interview went, because there were a lot of random questions, which, in my opinion, they only asked me to throw me off. I was I was asked questions from anthropology, which I do not know why I was asked. And law questions from law were very simple. So they only asked me a few questions on RTI, one question on any two recent judgments in your opinion which were passed in the last 2 years, and your opinion on them.
That is something I asked in the interview as well, right? You tell me five judgments, four judgments, very important. Yes.
Yes, sir. And not much from law options, sir. There were a lot of random questions. They asked me about urban development, urban planning. So, sir, I really cannot give much concrete advice about interview. Just be prepared for anything because they can ask you basically anything.
Literally. Okay. No, I was taking one another interview, right, just before you. That she was telling me, sir, the questions they asked me, she was also from some NLU. Sir, the question they asked me from they saw my DAF and said, that, okay, you are a lawyer and you have taken lot of moot court, so I will cross-examine you. And once that cross-examination started, she was very good in that, right? So she replied very nicely. But your interview experience is very different, right? They ask you, I mean, everything apart from law, only just one or two questions from law, right?
Yes, sir. One or two questions, and that too just one person asked those questions. Everyone else asked me questions from either anthropology or even international relations, as I can recall.
So obviously the marks is not outed, but I think 10, 20 marks, you must have got less in interview, right? Otherwise things would have been much more better.
Yes, sir. I think I interview is the one where have gotten less marks because mains I feel I did pretty well. I think interview I need to improve upon next time.
Okay, you will. I know you will. You are a very good student.
Thank you,
Chaliye, so let us wind it up, Mohit. Okay. Thank you very much and
sir.
prepare well for the next time. Okay.